We're clearly different. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
It is 8:07. Worried about basement flooding? It's time to call Permaseal, 800-421-SEAL. And a check of the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center with Jim Telemonte.
In McHenry, Chapel Hill Road remains closed between Lincoln Road and August Lane due to a crash. Northbound I-57, traffic remains heavy. Palmer Road to past Flossmoor Road. The right lane is blocked. Vehicle ditch. On the Ryan Expressway near 43rd, there was a collision in the express lanes that has cleared. I-55, we see roadwork delays northbound in Grundy County from Gardner Road to Reed Road, and farther north is tight, River Road to Blodgett. South side, 111th Street is closed in front of Roseland Hospital. Perry and State, there's congestion there for coronavirus screening. Also on the northwest side, on Harlem near eastbound Forest Preserve, where the screening's been expanded. It's traffic. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center. Fair skies for the morning. Chance of a heavy thunderstorm this afternoon. A high of 75. Currently 57. Next news at 8:30. Breaking news as it happens. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas, great coffee, period.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Why don't you order a national shutdown? Tell those 9 governors to shut their states down. Why don't you appoint a military czar? Because Chuck Schumer said so. What about the hospitals complaining about the testing kits? Of course, that was 2 weeks ago.
All right.
Same questions over and over again at these task force briefings from the D.C. press corps. Barely any digging into anything important, much less introducing of anything that's, to borrow a word, novel. No value add. There's no perspective, it seems to me, on trying to get value added information for the viewer. It is all.
It's all about the reporters. They want to get the gotcha question out to Trump so that they, expand their social media base or look good with their bosses.
Prosecuting their case. They have a case they're prosecuting, not a story they're covering.
Right.
That's a big difference. And this was evident again yesterday with the way this HHS IG report was asked about and then pressed by any number of people there, including Jonathan Karl, who got a bit of a tongue lash. I mean, I like Jonathan Karl generally, but he got a bit of a tongue lashing from the president, too.
But testing is still a big issue in this country. When can hospitals expect... Put the slide up again, please. When can hospitals expect to receive a quick turnaround of these test results?
Are you ready? Hospitals can do their own testing also. States can do their own testing. States are supposed to be doing testing. Hospitals are supposed to be doing testing. You understand that? We're the federal government. Listen to me. We're the federal government. We're not supposed to stand on street corners doing testing. They go to doctors. They go to hospitals. They go to the state. The state is a more localized government. You have 50 of them.
Yeah, it's a real tutorial. And then Mike Pence had to come back later and re-explain the org chart to the same press.
And under FEMA, we provide federal support. The state manages the healthcare response, and healthcare providers and first responders implement that response on a local level. Our lead on this issue in implementing it is Administrator Pete Gaynor. But the man managing all of the supplies, and you heard a presentation this weekend about our air bridge, what we also call the control tower. We literally, with Admiral John Polovchik at the helm of our logistics effort, We have visibility now on all the supplies that are moving across this country and into this country from around the world. It really is extraordinary. I mean, when the president tapped FEMA to lead this effort, we essentially wanted to say, we want to organize this in a military fashion. And we tapped really someone who is widely regarded as the #1 supplies and logistics military officer to do just that.
You know, one of the things about the lack that the press corps that is most disquieting is just the absolute lack of intellectual curiosity. They have no independent questions or thoughts of their own. They say, Joe Biden just tweeted this, respond. Or Chuck Schumer just said this, respond. Are you paying attention at all, like ordinary Americans that have legitimate questions about antivirals, about testing, about the lockdown, about the small business loan program, and trying to dig into those details? I mean, some are, but very few of those some are at these briefings asking intelligent questions, and they go on for hours. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Richard Benedetto. He's a retired USA Today White House correspondent and columnist. Currently teaches media and politics at American University and in the Fund for American Studies program at George Mason University. I am a graduate of the Fund for American Studies program.
Oh,
yeah.
la-di-da-da.
Isn't that nice? Richard Benedetto, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good to join you.
Before we get into your piece in Real Clear Politics, which was quite good, another good case study about press coverage here, what's your sort of general assessment of these briefings and the questions that are being asked and the posture of the collected D.C. media?
Yeah, well, when I watch them on TV, and I do watch them almost every single day, when I watch them and I hear the questions that are being asked, I kind of cringe because of the fact that they're really not looking for information that they can pass on to the public. I mean, that's the job of the reporter. The reporter in a crisis like this, whether he be covering the White House or whether she be covering the State Department or whether she be covering the health departments, is to pass on to the public information that they need and want to help them weather themselves through this crisis. That's our job. Information first. I go back to my most basic college preparation for this job, and that is, I remember the dean of the graduate school when I was starting graduate school, way back, saying on the first day that you are going into the information business. You give people good information, they will figure out what to do with it. But that's that kind of reporting that passes along the information that people wouldn't be able to get anywhere else or otherwise is disappearing. The name of the game for reporters, especially for reporters covering the White House, is tell the public today how bad a job President Trump is doing. That seems to be the main mantra that goes through their heads as they approach these briefings.
Mm-hmm. And don't you think it's all about them now?
And, oh yeah, it's all about them. Because they've developed personalities. I was a print reporter. Print reporters are pretty anonymous. The only time anybody ever saw me, who was a reader of mine, which once in a while I would go on C-SPAN and do that Washington Journal. It's on early in the morning. The only people who are watching that at 7 o'clock in the morning are people who are either insomniacs or because many times you'd get people from the West Coast who are watching. If it's 5 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning in D.C., it's 4 o'clock in the morning in California. But there are people who are insomniac or people who are just plain interested in learning things. People don't. I didn't go on shows such as Hardball or any of those things because I was required to give my opinions, and I didn't like to give my opinions.
Mm. Well, I mean, the other thing it seems to me that's going on, and this is sort of a tangent to what you just said, which is you were wrong about this. Remember on February 28th, you said that? Well, what do you say now? I mean, there's some of that you can do on big things, but it's the nitpicking things. And, oh, by the way, everyone was wrong. It's sort of the same week-long argument we had about what you're allowed to call the virus, how you're allowed to term it, because Trump called it the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus. After weeks of the D.C. press corps themselves, in addition to left politicians, saying the same thing. But when Trump said it, now it became a story. I mean, that sort of thing just, I mean, you can do that if you want, but it just delegitimizes you with at least half the population.
Well, it's it's all a factor. Part of what's driving that is that the reporters don't like Trump. He criticizes them; they don't like that. Another thing that I was taught way back was that criticism is a two-way street. We in the media are allowed to criticize the government and criticize government players, but at the same time, they can criticize us. Now, some politicians would push back harder than others. Trump pushes back real hard. Reporters don't like that because they have to defend themselves, and they don't like to do that. They think that they're superior, and therefore they're above criticism.
But they're hurting. They're hurting the American people mentally. I mean, right before you came on, we had a story about a couple in Will County, Illinois. He killed his girlfriend and himself because he was so fearful of having coronavirus. I mean, they're scaring us with this death ticker. They don't say how many people in the hospital are hospitalized. They just focus on the number of cases and the number of deaths. We don't know how many people have recovered. We don't know how many people are hospitalized, and it's driving me nuts.
And what they're doing is with those numbers is that they're trying to play up the worst of the numbers, and they're not putting them into any perspective at all. It's the number of deaths, and they're ticking up. And some of the cable news channels are running minute-by-minute statistics as the numbers change, so that you keep that number out there, because that is like the most important. But that's the easiest kind of reporting you could do. The hard part is getting to the deep part of the stories. What's really being done in the supply chain? What's really being done in the hospitals? What's really being done? I'm sure that if reporters wanted to go into the hospitals and find out what's happening in hospitals and do stories there, they could probably do it, but it'd be dangerous. There's no question it'd be dangerous, and they might not want them to go in. But the thing is, do things for people that they wouldn't otherwise be able to know. Help them know something that they don't know right now. And it's not just to scare them. Sometimes the right stories will make them feel better.
Well, right. Oh, and look, give credit where credit is due. Sometimes it's also to humanize a story. So I may know a small business owner that's struggling and that's really getting hammered after doing everything right and sacrificing and blood, sweat, and tears. But it's great when Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes does a profile piece on a number of small business people from a number of different perspectives, because it drives a conversation in a way that my relationship with one business owner can. So that's great storytelling too, and that's important. No problem with that, and I in fact I applaud it. But there's just not enough of that, and there's not enough of any consideration for questions for which you don't like the answer. So there's no question, Trump offering an aspirational date of Easter, or having or continuing to press the idea that at some point in the not too distant future we have to open the economy, and that should drive a conversation about the balance between the public health and economic health, even though the two are linked. But you can't even have that conversation, because if you say, well, what about a timeline for reopening, then you're somehow indifferent to the suffering of others. I mean, it's anti-intellectual is what it is.
Certainly is. There's no intellectual pursuit at all here. The name of the game for a reporter who goes over to those briefings every single day is, what story can I write that shows Donald Trump made big mistakes today, or doesn't know what he's talking about? What is it that I can do? You can see what the framing of the questions. I could tell. I've sat in that press briefing room literally probably more than 1,000 times, and I could tell when I listened to the question. I could tell exactly what the reporter wants to write from the question. They're not seeking information; they're seeking a lead.
Yeah.
They know there's give me a lead. Trump said today that this was bad or this was good, and isn't it stupid that he said this? Or tell me, why is everything going so badly? It's like, is that kind of question is, are you still beating your wife?
Right. And also maybe not even necessarily a lead, just make it easier for the headline writers to going back to your piece at realpolitics.com, where you just took a March 29th headlines from the Washington Post front page. Just the U.S. economy's downturn, inside Trump's risky push to reopen the country, world's poor face grave new hardships, states needs overwhelm unprepared stockpile. I mean, come on.
I know. You read all that, you go through. Well, that was the point that I made. It was a Sunday morning. It was last Sunday, a week ago Sunday, my wife was reading the headlines herself, and she said, "Look at this and look at that." And I said, "My God, I got to write something about this, because I've been complaining about it every day." And it's because I still get the print edition. It comes to my door every day.
Well, and then you also have, and this is always fun too, since we just recently had another one, the mistakes that are made in presenting a gun range in Kentucky as a front in Syria with Kurds and Turks fighting, or as was the case more recently, a scene from an Italian hospital is supposed to be a scene from a New York hospital. The mistakes are always made in the egregious ones like that, always made in the direction of their preferred narrative.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. I agree.
Well,
I'm still teaching right now, and I'm teaching classes online. And so we're going to meet tomorrow afternoon. One of my classmates meets tomorrow afternoon. And we meet online, and I have a class of 30 people. They're scattered all around the country now, from California to Florida. But we discuss some of this. I try to get them to. They're mostly political science majors, and I tried to impress upon them the need for more responsibility. We used to take courses called the Responsibility of the Press. That was a whole course. What's your responsibility to society as you promote, provide this information? I don't think they even bother to teach that anymore. I just don't see it.
He is Richard Benedetto, retired USA Today White House correspondent and columnist, currently teaches media and politics at American University and in the Fund for American Studies program at George Mason University. Professor Benedetto, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Nice to be with you both.
Take care.
Thanks. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Do any of your vehicles need tires or brakes? Remke's Garage is open as an essential business. Now is the perfect time to get your car repaired while the kids are home and extra cars are in the driveway. Because of the shutdowns, you should get the work done before supply chain issues happen and parts may not be available. Remke's Garage makes the car repair process easy with zero contact needed. Just drop off the car and go. Remke's takes all the precautions, including wiping down the interior of the car, hood, and door handles. Remke's will email you an estimate you can pay over the phone. No matter the make or model, AM 560 listeners know they trust the experts at Remke's Garage. Learn why Remke's Garage is your #1 dealer alternative for repairs. Go to remkeysgarage.com to schedule your appointment today. That's Remke's, REMKES, garage.com. Remke's Garage wishes your family the best of health and urges you to stay safe.